Welcome to Ask the Security Guy. I'm Holly Magnuson, and I want to ask you if you've ever heard of Murphy's Law. You know, that law that says everything that can go wrong will? Well, this month's episode of Ask the Security Guy on our online Christmas shopping was one of those types of experiences. First off, we were supposed to do it live, and for whatever reason, even after testing, the technical gremlins created a problem and we weren't able to push out live. So we went ahead and recorded the episode, and as I got ready to prepare it to publish to YouTube, realized that for some reason my audio didn't record. But let's face it, Shawn is the one who has the important things to say, and his audio recorded fabulously. So stay tuned for this episode where we talk about things to think about when you're shopping online and when you go to the store. Be sure to check out the video that I've added to this playlist. It's a Christmas favorite for us all. Thanks for your support of Ask the Security Guy. And remember, if you have questions, you can always email us at iso@apu.edu. Have a great day and Merry Christmas.
You know, it's a marvelous time of year to spend money, right? But that actually isn't the reason for the season. And we know that, we're here to celebrate the birth of our Savior and all the things that go with that from our perspective here at APU. But the reality is we do a lot of shopping this time of year. So I don't know if you checked your email lately or had Facebook pop-ups lately, or if you're on YouTube or Twitter or whatever your social media choice is. I'm sure you're getting ads and coupons and savings things and all of those kinds of things, right? Too many to count. Holly, I'm not seeing your video, but gotcha. Okay, I always do. Absolutely. So with all these coupons, some are real, some are fake. How do you know which is which? Well, you can do just Google the coupon issuer, see if they're valid, or check to make sure they're a manufacturer coupon, because online coupons now are the same as the old-fashioned kind. Some are from the store, some are from a third party, and then some are from the manufacturer. So just do your due diligence before you get all excited about that 50% off deal or that 50% off coupon you got. Make sure it's actually the real deal. A lot of times what they're going to ask for is all kinds of personal information. And you have to make the choice as to whether or not you're willing to give that information to them. Because we live in an era of data breaches. Well, and that's the other thing to consider. If they're asking for all this personal information, one, do you want to give it to them? Two, do you trust them? Three, have they been the subject of a data breach lately? That's pretty easy to search. Go with, if you look up the company who's issuing the coupon, do a search. Have they been subject to a data breach lately? Because what we know in our world today is if you haven't had a data breach, you will. It's just a matter of time. And the IRS, back in, what was it, 2017, I think, or 2016, their disclosure about data breach was never actually complete. The final results of their breach, which included basically all of our information, including social security number and financial records and who you work for and all of that kind of stuff, was never fully disclosed. And really, who's going to hold the IRS accountable for full disclosure? Well, I mean, it just is what it is, as one of our colleagues is very fond of saying. And the reality is your information, despite taking best practices, is out there. So on that, wonderful, happy note of your information is out there and it's outside of your control and there's really nothing you can do about it, there is actually some good news. Well, I'll tell you, my identity was stolen a few years ago. As part, and I'm from the research I've done on my own situation. My identity theft was a result of the IRS data breach. Um, Again, I mean, I follow my own best practices, and it still happened. But they didn't get very far because I also use the tools that my credit card, my bank offer for two-factor authentication, for fraud alerts, for all of those different services that they offer, usually for free. I signed up for all of them, and I use them. Now, here's a kicker: if you travel over the holiday season and you don't notify them, your credit cards and your banks, that you're traveling, and you go to buy something in the next state over that your destination is in, your card may not work until you call them and let them know that, hey, I'm traveling, and yes, I'm actually in said state. That happened to me because I forgot to call them. Well, I was actually happy to see it despite the inconvenience, because I would much rather be in a situation of them taking precautions that I signed up for and seeing them actually work. So that really gave me a lot more confidence in the security controls that are being offered by these different companies. Um, so what's the first best thing you can do to protect your identity? Freeze your credit. If you have your credit frozen, nobody can open new lines of credit in your name. They can't take out a loan. They can't get a new credit card. They can't sign up for utilities. They can't do all of the steps that are really necessary to do a full identity takeover. That's not to say they can't, impersonate you with your social, for certain other things like a job or we've seen a lot of cases where identities are being sold to illegal immigrants. It's happening, and it has been. And there's a long pattern of it happening. Um, and there's a definite market for stolen identities there, and they don't always show up on the credit report stuff right away, but eventually they have to, and that's typically how those identities get flagged. Um, but the first best thing you can do that's actually a proactive step instead of a reactive step is freezing your credit. Now, it used to be that all three credit bureaus charged a fee to do that. They charged a fee to freeze your credit. They charged a fee to thaw it whenever you needed to thaw it. I know I've spent well over $100 on my own, out of my own pocket over the years, freezing and thawing and freezing and thawing, while those were still in place. Well, in September of this year, the FTC decided, you know what? That's not okay. And now you can freeze and thaw your credit to your heart's content with all three bureaus for free. So, round of applause, cue the music here. But that started effective September 21st of this year. The FTC ruled that the credit bureaus could no longer charge for that service because it is such an integral part of protecting your identity. Um, so yay. I mean, that is a total win. Now, next question. What other service on top of that would I use to bolster, belt and suspenders, layers of security that we've talked about over the years? Personally, I use LifeLock. There are others that do a good job as well. I am not endorsing LifeLock. I'm just saying that I use them personally. I started using them personally because I got a free year from one of my credit card companies that had a breach. That's the only reason I really signed up with them. Now, has it been pretty good to work with? Yeah, it's been okay. And they've got a pretty good reputation. Um, I would be wary of any of the bureau's offerings unless you understood the company that they were actually using to deliver it. So you mentioned, I think, Experian? Yeah. Yeah, they're contracting with another company to do that, and I don't remember who it is off the top of my head. So I would research that company before I would even consider it. And there's a few others out there. There is some value added by those organizations. I will grant you that. And if you are looking to not be as actively involved in protecting your identity as you would like to be in other areas of your life, which I completely understand, they're not a bad way to go. But what I would say is freeze your credit anyway. Go shop around, check the research, check what's being said about them in the reviews, and make a decision from there. Well, and also depending on your affiliation. So if you are a member of a law enforcement family, or if you're a member of a military family, there may be special deals offered there as well and discounts. So check that out. I mean, it can't hurt. There's value in it. Um, I will never be the one to say that it is bad to have additional security over your identity, but just know that no one thing is the silver bullet in protecting your identity. You have to be involved in it. Freezing your credit, monitoring any attempts, monitoring your credit on a daily basis, monitor your transactions on your credit cards and your bank cards and everything else. Um, some oldies but goodies. Mail theft is on the rise again, as in traditional snail mail. We're seeing a significant uptick in package theft and mail theft. And it's not what you think. They're not necessarily just looking for the checks that are sitting in your mailbox. A lot of times they're looking for your utility bills because there's information that they can put together from your utility bills. So your cable TV, your water, your gas, your power, all those statements have information about you as a person on there that they can start to piece together a profile. Exactly. Exactly. And let's face it, I mean, despite what we say, I still hear people saying, well, I'm very secure. I use the same password on all my accounts. You know, that's why we have companies like LastPass and Dashlane. And I just heard of it's actually not a new company. It's been around a while. But one of our colleagues is has some investment there now called Keeper Security. And I don't know if they still do, but they used to come pre-installed on AT&T and T and Verizon cell phones, smartphones. And then you would, either use their free service like LastPass, or they had a premium service that's pretty inexpensive, also like LastPass. So over the course of the next year, we're going to look at them and start investigating them to see if they're worth recommending here at APU. So we're going to take a look at that. So if you've ever heard of them, if you have feedback, if you use them currently, I'd love to hear about it. Please contact Holly or I and let us know your story if you're using Keeper. So to get back to the online shopping bit a little bit. So we talked about the coupons. Another trick, and it's a basic thing, use a low balance credit card to do your Christmas shopping. If you shop online or in the store, it doesn't really matter anymore. All of your credit card data gets processed online anyway. So the security of shopping in the store, the security of shopping in their online branch, kind of half dozen, half dozen, 1/6 of the other anymore. So, but what you can do is, I know in a lot of cases, most people now have like this Visa debit card that is associated with their primary checking account, or a savings account, or some piece of their finances that is pretty important. For paying things like, I don't know, your mortgage or your rent, or your car payment. It can be pretty inconvenient if that particular piece of your financial portfolio gets compromised. Now, banks now are usually pretty good about spotting fraud and refunding the money if it's identified as fraudulent transactions. But all of that can take time, and that's time that, if you don't have a financial buffer built, can hurt a lot. So when it comes to shopping, and when it comes to the holiday season and travel and all those fun things, I recommend you use a low balance credit card that you don't have a lot of interest in. That's kind of disposable. Use it, pay it off. Use it, pay it off. That again protects your primary checking, savings, whatever it is that you use, and it reduces risk. I won't say it completely protects it, because, well, we live in an era where nothing does, but it does reduce risk. So it's just one of those little things. Disclaimer: you have to have the discipline to pay the thing off. So if you rack up a bunch of debt on that credit card, you still have to pay the thing off. So I am not a financial advisor. I'm a security guy. So one of the other things, though, Holly, and I think this gets lost a lot of times, is we talk about security, and I know, for us and for a lot of things, we always think about, computer security or phone security. Well, there's a lot of aspects to security, and one of them is your physical security. And one of the things that's been on my mind a lot lately is, as I watch people, and I go in and out of stores myself, I see people leaving stores and they've got their head in their phone, and their keys are somewhere on their person, and they wander out to their car trying not to get hit by, while they're paying attention to whatever's on their phone, and kind of paying attention to what's going on around them, or they're talking on their phone, or they're texting, or whatever, or they're taking pictures of their purchases to post on social media. But they're not paying attention to what's going on around them. And, it's getting dark early right now, this time of year. And there are people in the parking lot that would love to, take your wallet, take your purchases, and take your keys, and have, go off and do their thing. And the simplest way to not be a victim to that kind of theft is, when you leave the store, put your phone away, get your keys in your hand, and be aware of what's going on around you. That's it. Just doing those simple things makes you less of an attractive target for the kinds of theft that are actually in person. So, so just more on the physical, real side of things. Basic steps. If you don't look like a victim, chances are you won't be one.
Yeah, and being awareness surrounding the practice is.
Well, and we're distracted by a million and one things these days. And our phone is basically a small computer. And, we're paying attention to that. We're paying attention to who we're with, hopefully. And we're paying attention to a million and one things. But if we're not paying attention to our surroundings, that also presents a risk to our well-being. Well, you mentioned a question earlier about receiving an email from a spammer who said they knew your password. And that's pretty scary stuff, right? So-and-so contacts me, and he presented a password that I did use in the past. Okay. So if that happens, a couple questions. When was the last time you used that password? Because all of the ones that have come across my desk so far have been a password that was used years and years ago. Usually it was a throwaway password of some sort, or is a password that they used in a lot of things, but they don't use it anymore. Well, hopefully, I would like to think that, all of our our episodes here have helped people find better ways to manage passwords and to create good secure passwords and not use the same password on every site. We had a case where an IMT member came to me and said, I got one of these, and it was actually one of the passwords I used. And I was talking with them, and I asked him, I said, well, when was the last time you used that? 2002. Okay. When did you change it? 2003. Okay. Is it in use anywhere? No. All right. Was it ever used at APU? No. Okay. Did you use it with your bank or your login to the DMV or anything like that? No. So a case like that tells me that some random site, because it was a throwaway password that he used. So some random site that he had signed up for, a long time ago, got compromised. It's an old breach. And guess what, folks? Even a breach that happened 10 years ago, the data from that breach is still available online somewhere on the black market. And we can find it and we can search it. These types of spam emails present a good use case for one, not using the same password everywhere. Two, using good passwords. Because the fact that they're breached like that means they were either not stored in a secure way, or they were stored using a form of security that has since become archaic, but it was easily crackable then. And I'll tell you, all of the passwords that I've seen from these spammer emails, and I've received quite a few of them, none of them are what we would call good passwords. Yeah. And the funny thing is the people tell me, yeah, I mean, that was before I knew how to make a good password. Okay. Have you seen your good password show up lately? No. That's good. That's a very good sign. And that's the kind of thing I want to hear. Now, if that changes, that's a whole different issue. But generally speaking, if you get one of these emails, I know they're scary, and I know they have an element of truth, but do the inventory. When and where did you last use that password? If you still use it, change it. The threat that is in the email is untrue. Just generically, it's untrue. It's a scare tactic. So if you get one of these emails, if you're still using the password they referenced, change it. Change everything. Just go through all the password sites that all the sites that you have passwords for and change it. It's a bit of a pain, yeah. But it gives you peace of mind that if they had access, they're now locked out. Oh, exactly. I mean, LastPass, Dashlane, you start, following best practices and creating these good passwords and using different passwords everywhere. Unless your memory is a whole lot better than mine, that's going to get really unmanageable really quick.
Yeah, I find it interesting.
I can only remember a handful from that era. Now, there are services available now that if you change your password, some of them are checking against dark web resources to see if that password that you just chose has ever showed up on a breach list somewhere. And that's really cool. And so there are services out there that provide it a legitimate. I think either LastPass does it currently, or that's a feature offering on their premium. I'll double check that. I don't know if Dashlane does it, but I know different organizations because it is pretty easy to find those dumps, those password dumps. A lot of organizations are either finding ways to pull them into their infrastructure and then querying against their local instance, or they're using a service that does that same thing. That's really fantastic, because when you get to a password change point and you say, well, I want my new password is going to be super secure. It's going to be monkey523. Well, guess what? The service will then tell you, well, you know what, Monkey523 is actually a known breached password and it's been used, you know, in 15 million other places. Oops. Try again. So we're able now to kind of a little bit of a twist to use the bad guys' tools to help us be more secure. So yeah, it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun.